Welcome, students, to the second part of the second chapter, Nelson Mandela Long Walk to Freedom. In the last class, we discussed about the difference between biography and autobiography. This is a small extract from the autobiography of Nelson Mandela, in which he wrote a small extract of his historic event called inauguration. We also discussed about the apartheid, that is a political system in which the people was differentiated on the basis of their creed, color, caste and so on. We also came to know about Nelson Mandela. He spent his entire lifetime fighting for this apartheid. He gained his freedom in 1994 and became the first black president of South Africa. We also saw that Mandela has nicely written how he was feeling on that day, that is the 10th May, about the climate, about the different dignitaries of international leaders. He also promised his country in a speech that he will never ever again face the country with any kind of oppression from anyone. He also promised to liberate all the people from all the bondages like deprivation, suffering, poverty, gender discrimination, and so on. And he said that the country will be the most beautiful country again. Now let us continue with the second part. In the second part, we can see that Nelson Mandela has nicely described how they have celebrated the event. The Jet Airways, the police officials, how they were marching and in a spectacular array or an impressive display, they have been attracting the Republic. He also reminds or remembers that not long year before, when they would have seen him, he would be arrested rather than saluted. He also tells that there were two national anthems sung, one for the whites and one for the black. He tells that they wouldn't know the words by heart, but very soon they will learn it. Now let us continue. On the day of the inauguration, I was overwhelmed with a sense of history. In the first decade of the 20th century, a few years after the bitter Anglo-Boer War and before my own birth, the white-skinned peoples of South Africa patched up their differences and erected a system of racial domination against the dark-skinned people of their own land. The structure they created formed the basis of one of the harshest, most inhuman societies the world has ever known. Now he's telling, during the first decade of the 20th century, even before when Nelson Mandela was born, they started this racism. They're telling that of their own country, they were differentiates between white people and the black people. He was telling that the structure was formed in such a way that it was the most inhuman and the harshest manner in the society. Now, in the last decade of the 20th century and my own 8th decade as a man, the system has been overturned forever and replaced by one that recognizes the rights and freedoms of all people regardless of the color of their skin. He's talking about that now at the last decade they have got the democratic country in which the people have their rights and freedom. That day had come about through the unimaginable sacrifices of thousands of my people. People whose suffering and courage can never be counted or repaid. I felt that day as I have on so many other days that I was simply the sum of all those African patriots who had gone before me. That those African patriots who had gone before me. That long and noble line ended and now began again with me. I was pained that I was not able to thank them and that they were not able to see what their sacrifices had wrought. So he's telling that he was very sad because he couldn't thank all the patriots who had suffered for this freedom. He was the sum of all those patriots who had left behind, giving him the support, courage to go forward, and they were the people, their noble works have led them to such a freedom. The policy of apartheid created a deep and lasting wound in my country and my people. All of us will spend many years, if not generations, recovering from that profound hurt. But the decades of oppression and brutality had another unintended effect, and that was that it produced the Oliver Thambos, the Walter Senseless, the Chief Lutheliers, the Yusuf Dandus, the Bram Fishers, the Robert Sobuquets of our time. Men of such extraordinary character, courage, wisdom, and generosity that their like may never be known again. So he's talking about the different people, the different personalities. He's telling if there was no oppression, no brutality, these personalities wouldn't have come up. Perhaps it requires such depth of oppression to create such heights of character. My country is rich in the minerals and germs that lie beneath its soil, but I have always known that its greatest wealth is its people, finer and truer than the purest diamond. So as we know, Africa is mostly known or very prominent for the minerals and also gemstones. So he is telling that all those are secondary, but the first preference or the greatest wealth for him is his society or his people or his republic. It is from these comrades in the struggle that I learned the meaning of courage. Time and again I have seen men and women risk and give their lives for an idea. I have seen men stand up to attack and torture without breaking, showing a strength and resilience that defies the imagination. I learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. The brave man is not he who does not feel afraid, but he who conquers that fear. So he is telling that these comrades or these people helped him to learn the meaning of courage. He is telling that courage was not the absence of fear, but it was the people who come over it or conquer it, triumph over it, who success to overcome that fear. That people is known as courageous. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or his background or his religion. People must learn to hate, and if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to a human heart than its opposite. Even in the grimmiest times in prison, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guard, perhaps just as for a second, but it was enough to reassure me and keep me going. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished. So here Mandela is saying that every person is not born with the hatred. They learn to hate. So he is telling us that if we are learning to hate, then we can be taught to love. Whereas he is telling love comes naturally to a human heart. And he is telling that when he was in the most difficult times in the prison, he could see a small glimmer or a small hope of humanity in the guards, and that would keep him going. He says that man's goodness or humanity is a flame that can be hidden but can never be stopped or never be extinguished. In life, every man has twin obligation. Obligation to his family, to his parents, to his wife and children. And he has an obligation to his people, his community, his country. So he's saying in life, every man has two obligations. Obligation means duties. Obligation to his family, parents, wife, children and so on. And obligation to his people, his community and his country. In a civil and human society, each man is able to fulfill those obligations according to his own inclination and abilities. But in a country like South Africa, it was almost impossible for a man of my birth and color to fulfill both of those obligations. He's telling that everyone has the tendency with their behavior itself they can fulfill this obligation. But in a country like South Africa, it was impossible to fulfill this obligation. He's telling that if he had given some kind of duty towards his community, he would be taken away and got separated and kept aloof from their society. And if they tend to be rebellious, same way, they would be taken from their family, they would be kept away from their home. I did not in the beginning choose to place my people above my family, but in attempting to serve my people, I found that I was prevented from fulfilling my obligation as a son, a brother, a father, and a husband. I was not born with the hunger to be free. I was born free, free in every way that I could know. Free to run in the fields near my mother's hut, free to swim in the clear stream that ran through my village, free to roast mealies under the stars and ride the broad back of slowly moving bulls. As long as I obeyed my father and abided by the custom of my tribe, I was not troubled by the law of man or God. So here he's telling that he was born free. He was not born for the hunger to be free. He was born free. He is telling that all the events that took place in his boyhood was amazing. Is reminiscing or remembering it. He is also saying that until and unless he had obeyed his father and abided to God, there was nothing which could stop him or he would go into any kind of trouble. It was only when I began to learn that my boyhood freedom was an illusion, when I discovered as a young man that my freedom had already been taken from me, that I began to hunger for it. At first, as a student, I wanted freedom only for myself. The transitory freedom of being able to stay out at night, read what I pleased, and go where I chose. Later, as a young man in Johannesburg, I yearned for the basic and honorable freedoms of achieving my potential, of earning my keep, of marrying and having a family, the freedom not to be obstructed in a lawful life. So he's telling, as he was in a boyhood, he thought that he had the freedom. But as he started growing, he realized that his freedom had been taken away. He was restricted. He's telling that at that moment he started hungering or had hunger for it. But when I slowly saw that not only was I not free, but my brother and sisters were not free, I saw that it was not just my freedom that was curtailed, but the freedom of everyone who looked like I did. That is when I joined the South African National Congress, and that is when the hunger of my own freedom became the greater hunger for the freedom of my people. So he is telling that he saw that it was not his freedom which was curtailed, but the freedom of all those people who looked alike him. At that moment, he joined the National African Congress. It was this desire for the freedom of my people to live their lives with dignity and self-respect that animated my life. So he's telling that he wanted his people to live with dignity and self-respect. And that's why this man transformed a frightened young man into a bold one. They strove a law-abiding attorney, a person who follows law, to become a criminal. They turned a family-loving husband into a man without a home. They forced a life-loving man to live like a monk. He's telling he was not even more virtuous than the self-sacrificing than the next man. He also said that even if he had a little bit of freedom, he couldn't enjoy because there were many other people who didn't have their freedom. He's telling he was not able to enjoy his freedom when he saw others in trouble. He's also telling that if there was chain in one of his people, it was chain towards him. So that is the reason why he went forward to fight for his people. I knew that the oppressor must be liberated just as surely as the oppressed. He is telling us the oppressor, the person who oppresses another person. He is telling that the person who puts one person in jail, even the prisoner, is a man who is in bars, is listening to someone else and is control of that person. He is locked behind the bars of prejudice and narrow-mindedness. I am not truly free if I am taking away someone else's freedom, just as surely as I am not free when my freedom is taken from me. So he's telling the person who takes away my freedom is not free. Whereas if the same way, if my freedom is taken away from me, the oppressed and the oppressor alike are robbed of their humanity. Both of the people have no humanity. The person who takes away another person's freedom doesn't have humanity. Same way, the person whose freedom has been taken away, that person is also inhuman. So that is what this chapter talks about. So the question answers have been provided in the PDF form, and thank you for listening.